Uncle Ron and stuff episode. I don't know. It's a continuation of Thoughts on Thoughts. And self-identity. Self-identity. Everybody's got one. It's important you have a self-identity. Complex. I think it's a concept that doesn't work well with digits like numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Digits like words like dog, pinochle, engineer, male. It doesn't. It's more than the digits that can be. You throw out. You know, everybody has. You know, well, who are you? Oh, well, I'm a born-again Christian. Or no, I'm an engineer. I'm a physicist. I'm a whatever. A label. Labels. The trouble is that we're way more than all of that. You're way more than any kind of number of labels you could throw on yourself. I never much cared for it. You get in a larger group of people, you go to a party, whatever, and you have the conversations, and, you know, what do you do for a living? Self-identity. What do you do for a living? You know, okay, well, I'm retired. Well, what did you do before that? As if that were that's your identity. Well, no. Yeah, I guess. From perspective of other people, again, we stereotype. It's normal to do, though. So if I say engineer, various things come to mind, and if I say this or that, very few people self-identify and say victim. I'm a victim. I never thought about thinking that I was a victim. You know, oh, well, who are you? I'm a victim. I don't know. We're more than that. We're complex, and it just doesn't fit digits and words. Words are just chunks. They're like binary, ones and zeros. They're like numbers. The structure of language really lays down a hard imprint on thoughts, and it doesn't fit real well. It's real handy, but it does not cover all of our mental gymnastics that your brain and mind, and mind is mind-boggling to try to think about. Goes above just responding to the current environment. You know, that's what we spend most of our time doing, just responding to something that's going on or initiating something. But self-identity, I don't know when it develops, how it develops. I want to say confidence or comfort, or keeping away from pain of some kind. Might be boundaries of a self-identity. Perhaps that's, you know, we live in a box. You know, everybody says, well, you got to think outside the box. Well, what's the box? What box are we talking about that you're thinking outside of? Part of that has to be, well, what your identity is. You know, how do you identify as yourself? Who are you? This is a good question to ask yourself. Who are you? Well, things will come to mind, they pop in. I sometimes ask people that. Describe yourself in 5 words, you know, and they'll say, well, I'm compassionate, whatever. Digits, again, words again, which have a stereotyping meaning. We all know what this word means or that word means, at least to us. and it's broadly shared. Same, a definition of a word is broadly shared. That's how we can somehow communicate in general between each other, is we have broadly shared definitions of words. And self-identity, again, probably if you were to try to think about it, it would come out in the way of digits or words, labels. And I don't know when it develops and how it develops. I don't think it's like bang and you self-identify as this, or bang, you self-identify as that. I think some people do like to be, maybe we all need to be parts of groups. There is a herding instinct, perhaps, I want to be with this group or that group. That group is smart, that group is pretty, that group is popular, and so we'll adapt some labels that have been assigned to that particular group, and you self-identify that you're part of that group. I think it's normal to do so, but I think there is it limiting in a sense. It doesn't accurately, especially if you adopt the herd's identity early on, it might box you in, so it restricts your ability to also be able to label or otherwise recognize other aspects of your self-identity. The importance of self-identity. I'm real comfortable and confident saying that we have to have one. That you have to have some sort of describable of yourself. Describe yourself. It's important in some dimension that you have some understanding of what you consider core elements of yourself. I talked about the Tower of Babel in one of the episodes, and that was really a kind of a self-identity thing. It was more than that. How do I incorporate other concepts into my structures of belief systems and all sorts of other non-labeled aspects of thinking or feeling. But probably one of the biggest aspects of being awake in the Milky Way is self-identity. Who are you? And, lots of stories. Well, he had a midlife crisis because he was trying to figure out who he was. The self-identity that you might have carried for 10 or 20 years doesn't seem to fit anymore. You've acquired more experiences. Some things that worked in the past no longer work, so that you've got to pitch that out or lower its priority or lower the amount of confidence that you have in that particular thing. Confidence is a weird one. I was going to talk about artificial intelligence at one time as an aspect of this. And there is a domain, a realm of artificial intelligence that allows you, like if you think it's a fact, 1 and 1 equal 2. How confident am I that that is true? Well, I'm confident that 1 and 1 equal 2. But if you start putting units to it, what are we talking about here? 1 apple, 1 orange, 1 peanut, 1 person, then it's not 2 anymore. 2 objects perhaps, but it's not. Why do I do this to myself? I rumble around in areas that I do not have quantified in some way in terms of words. Self-identity is this massive, complex series of, I don't want to use the word labels, it's not true, but confidences perhaps, morals, ethics, things. How do you you know, self identity. You have beliefs. Yeah, beliefs are in your self identity. There, like I say, confidence has got to be part of whatever you're confident doing or not doing, and you only gain that over time. People don't start off being confident about something. It has to be incrementally, a little bit at a time. You do this and you're successful, and you do a little bit of that and you're successful or you're not successful. I always found that if you were truly enjoying what you were doing, whatever it is, that you did it was easier to do, and it built confidence. And if you were good at this or that, you might be able to pull some of what you learned out of this, doing this, into some other area where you've never been before, but you could apply it. Some I want to call it knowledge about knowledge, or meta-knowledge. You know, you could pull that over there. Well, self-confidence sort of sits down on top of the whole thing like a hat on my head. You know, it encompasses. Think of everything that's underneath of my hat. I'm not talking about my head and my hair. I'm talking about everything else. This is a big, giant mass, you know. Underneath here is all kind of stuff. Amazing kind of stuff. In fact, some people say, you know, is this all a dream that we're having? And I'm sharing the same dream with other people, like-minded people, or have I constructed the whole thing, you know, the whole universe, and you know, what I think I might know about something, has that all been self-constructed in here? Did I come in born with a self-identity, and the identity is this particular reality? Am I inventing it? You know, no. A physicist might say, yeah, you're manipulating waveforms that go all the way down to particle level, or you know, your essence is spread hither and yon, and we are all interconnected at some level. I mean, we're all made up of the same stuff, carbon atoms, and you know, proteins that are. We're all made up of the same stuff. It's interesting. It's like music, you know. You almost, you take any instrument and you can almost get an infinite variety of combinations of notes out of it. Some of them are discordant and not pleasant to the ears, but you know, our chess game, how many billion moves are there possible in a chess game? A lot. Okay. Up underneath here is like that. There's almost an infinite number of combinations of things. Like I was talking about emotions one time, and emotions don't necessarily, yeah, there's pure emotions, I guess, okay, like hatred. That's not a good example, because I already said that it had to be an anger component to hatred. They're not just singles, they're combinations of multiple aspects, okay? Self-identity. You can say, well, I'm short-tempered. Okay, that's self-identity. I know I'm short-tempered. You know, what do you like to do? How about self-identity coming from that direction? What do you like to do? What do you don't like to do? Those could be parameters of your self-identity. I like doing this. I like reading. You know, I don't know. I don't like this, you know. I don't have a big issue with food for some reason. I eat to subsist. I have to take in nourishment. I always wanted to be like a flower, and I could go out in the sun and just, you know, catch all the energy I needed right off the sun. Being solar powered, I think, would be a way to go. You know, or pull the energy out of the ether that's around. Right now, this room is filled with radiation. I could just pull my hands up in here and pull out the energy that's here in this space and time. There is just vacuum energy. There is a certain amount of energy stored in every cubic foot of space. It's just there. Why can't I just harness that and use it instead of having to stuff on my mouth hole that goes down and then back out again. You know, self-identity. Self-identity. One of the self-identities I had is I can get lost. And that is my thoughts. I can just totally go so far away from this reality. I mean, billions of light years away. It's just, some people would be afraid of doing that because you couldn't find yourself back home again. What is home? What's bedrock? What are the most important aspects of your being? What is the self-identity? The bedrock issues. You ever thought about it that way? Again, it's Tower of Babel stuff, but what are the core things? Absolutely core. One of the things I don't understand well is people have self-identities of being victim. Why would you want that? I mean, maybe it got impressed upon you because you were a victim long enough, you know. I ran into women who were molested as children, and anything that has a big emotional component to it is going to, by neural definition, cause multiple pathways, and it gets tied into everything. And so something that gets tied that deeply into the knotty ball of string and jello that's in your head is going to have a attribute of your self-identity. So I can understand victim from that particular point of view, but I don't see where, if we have a self-identity, do we perpetuate it by doing things that perpetuate who we think we are? Do we do that? I think we do. You know, it's kind of hard to say, well, I've got this identity, you know, I think I'm this way or another, but I know it's not good for me, so I'll change it. How many people do that? Self-identity obviously evolves over time. The more interaction you have with reality, be it other people or just physical objects or anything, it's going to change. Hopefully it grows, expands, doesn't necessarily and eventually move beyond the label point where you don't think of yourself simply as a born-again Christian or simply male or simply homosexual or beautiful or ugly or bald or those sorts of, fat, ugly, I don't know. Who identifies that way? Everybody identify that way? You identify yourself as ugly? You identify yourself as fat? Maybe you do, I don't know. And associated with that is all these other things. Self-identity is, we all have it. You definitely have a self-identity. And it's beyond what, if someone asks you, what is your self-identity? Who are you? It's beyond any kind of response that you could give them, because you'd be back in the label trap. You would have to take this big thing and shrink it down into a point that would fit inside a little teeny word. Words are little teeny digits. Like, it's really important, but it's limiting. Shared definition of a word is, we have different definitions. In general, we have the same sort of core, but around that's wrapped all this other stuff. So that when I say word, it doesn't necessarily perfectly match your definition of that word. So self-identity is like that, in that, unfortunately, we're kind of forced down into these digits, like digits on a hand. They call them digits, don't they? On your hand, digits. We're forced into that sort of thing when way beyond that, self-identity, it's something to think about. That's all I ever want out of these postings, is to encourage thinking about things that are not taught in school, most people don't think about or even try to discuss. Unfortunately, I only have me to look at, and it's kind of hard to dialogue with me, although I used to go to therapy, and therapist was worthless, and maybe I've repeated this, but if I have, I'm sorry. And that I came in with an agenda, and just hearing myself speak, I could think about what I had just said, and you know, it had a ring of truth to it or not, and I would follow a thread as something, you know, jar, like, well, wait a minute, I haven't thought much about that, and I would go off that way. Talking out loud is a trial balloon kind of thing, and if you want to talk about your self-identity, start using labels, kick them out there, spit out there what comes to mind you think you are, but listen to what you say. You know, when you say this or that, listen to it, and then try to lay on, you know, does that fit the definition? Maybe a little bit. What do you like doing? What do you not like doing? What comes easiest for you? What is difficult? Those are somewhat parameters, right? Characteristics that you could, and you see, I'm already locked into a certain, because I'm an engineer, I'm locked into certain words for descriptions, you know, parameters, equations, ranges of things. Things don't fall into a single number, they're in a range, you know. It's like from here to there, it's like a speedometer in your car. You can go from 0 to 60, you know. It's a range. It's not a single number. At any one moment, it might be a single number, but it has a range to it. Same way with self-identity. It has a range to it. It has outer fringes. Think of it like a solar system, and around the sun, and these planets are, in fact, identities. And you have, you know, one's close to the source, and they're real strong identities. And as you move farther out, you have less and less powerful, but nonetheless identities. And you take it as a whole. And, like, how far out does it go? A long, long way. Self-identity stretches way out there. And maybe you haven't used the telescope yet to find those outer, lesser important planets in your solar system of self-identity. Maybe there's a reshuffle required, and you move one closer and you move one farther out, or you make one bigger, like a bigger planet as opposed to a smaller planet. However you want to. Again, I'm bound and limited by my engineer mentality. Writers, artists would not be using those parameters. They would be using some other parameter. I don't know. They would maybe, you know, a swish of the brush, or a welder is going to do it differently. You know, fusion of things together in some fashion, you know, knotting. And we're kind of like this all the time. I mean, that's what really is going on up here, is all this sort of manipulation. Things are firing and going on and whatever, and getting into knots, and, you know, I don't know. Enough of this one. It's gone on too long again. I apologize. But I thought self-identity has been kicking around my head, and all I'm doing is exploring it, and I'm asking you think about it. I will spend more time thinking about it, and whether it causes any reshuffling of the deck, I don't know. I'm always willing to reshuffle the deck and shift, you know, like shift to the right by 3, or move something up or down. I use the dimensionality things that we commonly share, you know, we sort of understand. They're not, it's a construct that you can use, but doesn't really fit very well when it comes into here. This is way beyond all that crap, and we still don't know much about it at all. Hopefully you'll come up with some, you know, like, you ever been out of the Word domain? You know, just in some other domain, some other way of being. Today is the 27th of December, 2022, and I continue to do these things. I don't think there's anybody out there, but that's okay, because I'm still not used to seeing myself. I don't know what self-identity. What do you look like? Why do I have a beard? Self-identity. I just got new glasses, and I make the glasses big as possible. Self-identity, is that part of my self-identity? What you prefer, what you favor, what you don't like, just think about it or not. Just think about it or not.